What's going on, Cowboys Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Star Chasers, Girls Talk Ball. As always, you know it's your girl Cravin Cowboys in the building, and you know I got my girl Star with me in the building. How you doing tonight, sis?
Doing good. What's up, everybody? Glad to be here for another episode of Star Chasers, Girls Talk Ball. It's always good to be here with my girl Mickey. Y'all know when y'all come in to please like the video. What's up to Kelvin in the chat, Tyrone Church. I know there'll be more people coming in, but just grateful to be here. And y'all know when y'all come in, please like the video, please share the video, and please subscribe.
Yes, facts to all three of those. Like she said, thank you to everybody who's already in the building. Also, our constant, I'm not gonna say constant, but I'll say our true followers, guys who been here since day one. Our sis Nisi who's been there. I'm not sure the last time we seen Nisi, but always here. Kelvin always one of the first guys in the building. Dak owns Filthy. Just our regulars coming through. Ty Church, of course, hitting us up. Showing us some love in the chat. So like she said, thank you guys for just spending your evening with us. Been some a good amount of Cowboys news coming out over the last couple. I say the last couple weeks. Really the last week. Really, with this being the week of the NFL Combine. All teams are kind of descending on Indianapolis right now. And actually, funny story as we kind of jump right into the news. Actually, one of our coordinators, I believe it was Clayton Adams, who I think mentioned. Oh, look. Soon as I right, there she go right there. What's up, sis? Thank you so much for joining us, Nisi. Always in the building, like I was just saying. Thank you for joining us. But yeah, like I was saying, I think it was Clayton Adams who mentioned. I think seeing one of his old, coaches on the plane as he was boarding. I want to look. I think I'll look it back. As we kind of get through the show. I just want to confirm, make sure I get it right. I believe it was Clayton Adams who said he's seen one of his coaches on the plane actually heading to Indianapolis. So as we see familiar faces, joining together again, NFL coaches, being able to see the kind of players, kind of get their visions together. Not just the Cowboys, but of course, 32 teams, this is their time fresh, look at the, the young players coming up in the draft, seeing if they want to change, if they want to keep things the same, what kind of philosophies, could, begin anew in these organizations. And just kind of speaking, as far as the Cowboys, our first time head coach, Brian Schottenheimer, went to Indianapolis with his fellow coordinators Clayton Adams and Matt Eberflus, and some of the I believe Junior Adams was there as well. Connor Riley I think gave an interview as well with DallasCowboys.com. So very excited to kind of get into those. We're not going to actually discuss those in full tonight. I'm excited to look at those interviews because just see kind of get the mindset of these guys coming in. But I was just telling Star off camera, just love that it seemed like every time you think you're caught up, here comes some more news that we get to kind of divulge into and kind of discuss. So I'm definitely excited. Like I was telling Star, you just kind of start to show off, like I was speaking about, other coaches being there. Dan Quinn, as some of the Cowboys media kind of spoke to him, and he kind of gave his thoughts on, first time head coach Brian Schottenheimer, Pete Carroll as well. Kind of gave his, his 2 cents. We, talk about speaking to Jerry and kind of wanting him to, feel good because they, even and it was kind of odd, Carroll kind of saying in his quote, I want to bring up here on Twitter, but in his quote, his quote talking about some, he knew that Schottenheimer was in the lead, to get that position. And it's kind of like it's kind of slowly coming out how sources are saying that there was talk of Dion, quote unquote, that he was gonna talk to Jerry, but it's just other people kind of knew that Schottenheimer was kind of in the lead to get the head coach position. So just that familiarity, with the Cowboys, how they like to do. What's your thoughts on that, sis? Like, what's your thoughts on just Brian Schottenheimer, just kind of getting good words being put in by coaches like Dan Quinn and Pete Carroll, these coaches that spent a good amount of time with Brian Schottenheimer.
What's up, Mark? What's up, OG Mark?
Hey, what's good, Mark Holmes? What's up, fam?
Good to see you. Always good. I always love when the content creators come in and bless us. Thank you, Mark, for joining us. We really appreciate that. All of y'all should know OG Mark Holmes. If y'all don't know, don't subscribe to Mark Holmes, duh. Okay, but anyway, well, I think that it's not a shock because, yeah, we did find out maybe like a couple weeks ago or maybe a month ago. I don't know. But somewhere along the line, we knew that Brian Schottenheimer was the lead candidate. like a couple of maybe like a week or so before they actually announced it, it was picking up steam that like he was the favorite. So I'm not. And when they talked to Carol, the reports were saying that um, that Jerry was pretty much talking to Carol about Brian Schottenheimer and about possibly hiring Brian Schottenheimer. That's what the conversations was about. It wasn't really about him hiring Pete Carroll. So I'm actually not really shocked to hear that. I think when it came out with the whole Dion thing and Jerry, I definitely think that was for publicity and headlines. I don't think that Jerry was ever actually going to give Prime the job. I do hate that he did Prime like that. And, now Prime's trying to play it off and like, yeah, I love Colorado. And
right.
But I was like, Prime, if Jerry had offered you that job, you would have took it. But Jerry didn't offer it because that's not what Jerry wanted. Jerry wanted continuity. And that continuity, the way that he got something new, they keep saying the way that they got changed, but they also got continuity was through hiring Brian Schottenheimer. And me, I was a fan of Brian Schottenheimer even before we knew that Prime, Jerry was interviewing Prime and all of these other people. So I was never upset at the Brian Schottenheimer hire because I was thinking about it long before they reported that he was even a dark horse candidate. But I do understand people who didn't want Shotty, you know what I'm saying? People who preferred to get Aaron Glenn or preferred to get what's his name? I can't stand him, but what's his name? The popular one he coaches
Ben Johnson.
Yeah, Ben Johnson or I wanted Bill Belichick and stuff like that. Like that was so. I do know that Cowboys fans weren't happy at the initial hire. I do think with the addition of the assistant coaches, everybody is pretty much on board. I don't see people complaining about Shotty anymore because of the way that he went about the hiring process, which I think was something different than what we've had here in the past. I mean, going out and getting a lot of coaches that are not really familiar with Shotty or familiar with the Jones family, that does show and send a signal that the Cowboys, as far as the coaching aspect, are trying to do something different than what they've done in the past. So I said I really appreciate how Shotty went about the hiring process because it is easy in that position to say, I'm gonna hire all my buddies that are on the streets. And, Mike McCarthy did that, and y'all see where that ended up. So I really appreciate how Shotty went about it. And shout out to Generation to Generation, Cowboys Joe. A show with him and his son. Really appreciate those two up and coming content creators. Y'all go subscribe to their YouTube channel.
And also shout out to Lee Harrison. He said it's his birthday. Hey, shout out to you, fam. Happy birthday to you. Fellow Aquarius. I ain't gonna say Aquarius because it's Pisces season now, but fellow February birthday, shout out to you. Hope you enjoy your birthday and hope you have a great weekend too. Keep that celebration going into the weekend. You deserve it, fam. You deserve it.
Exactly. And shout out to Postal Pack, one of my new people that be in my chat. Really appreciate you, Postal Pack. The process was pretty good, but go ahead, sis.
No, I was actually going to jump on that point that Postal Pack brought up, and actually that you brought up as well, sis. Lunda Wells, and also I believe Clayton Adams also kind of spoke on how Brian Schottenheimer kind of went about hiring these coaches, and shout out to Lunda Wells, one of the holdovers from the old coaching staff just last year. We know a lot of the guys from last year were signed a 1-year deal, so we knew that one way or another there's going to be a line of turnaround. But just seeing that how much turnaround there actually was, and for Lunda Wells to actually acknowledge, in his interview, he actually said, to be one of the few coaches left standing, seeing so much turnover, and even before that, we saw guys leave. Luna Wells has been here for a while, and that's kind of one point I probably kind of point out on a show that I'll do on my own is that even though the tight ends have been kind of a down room, you kind of see a little bit more consistency with those guys in the room, a little bit more. I know we haven't seen great great, show out on the field from these guys, but we do see progression, right? We did see Brevin Spanford kind of improve throughout the season. We saw Schoolmaker improve. We saw great things from John Stevens, even pre-injury, you know what I'm saying? And even Ferguson, even though he had kind of a down year, we still saw, excuse me, how much, just how much effort he played with. So even though we haven't seen great, productivity from that room as a whole, I even say, and even Hunter Lip, kind of getting, going back and forth between, the fullback role and tight end position, just seeing that room as a whole, in my opinion, we see a little bit more consistency and just some progression from that room, from what we see from the wide receivers, from what we see from the running backs, right? So shout out to the Cowboys for bringing him back, being just kind of a staple, on that coaching staff, if you will. And shout out to him for acknowledging also how Schottenheimer kind of went about hiring the coaches, bringing in coaches, and even shout out to Eberflus. He actually mentioned today in his combine interview about bringing in young guys, mentioning that he was once a college guy going into the pros and kind of making that transition. So he kind of has that point of view that he can kind of talk to. And it's kind of funny to me how I'm not saying that they're kind of giving a little bit more power to Eberflus, but they're kind of, mentioning a lot how he has that head coach experience, and they're kind of asking how Schottenheimer is kind of, they ask him, how do you see how Schottenheimer is kind of, being in that head role? And they're really asking a lot of guys on that coaching staff how they view Schottenheimer in that head role. So I like that they're not necessarily giving Eberflus all the power, but that they are acknowledging that he has the head coach experience and that he can somehow, some way, maybe help Brian Schottenheimer if he does have, questions along the way in that new role that he is embracing. But also at the same time, he's not overtaking, Shotty's power. He's not trying to take anything away from him, not trying to speak for him, not trying to, say he wants what his philosophy to be. But he also can offer him help in different ways, and kind of answer some questions that he may have along the way.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I agree with Lunda Wells is definitely a coach that we did want to retain. I think Lunda Wells, Al Harris. Unfortunately, Al Harris ended up leaving and going to the Bears, but I am glad that we did keep Lunda Wells. I am glad that we did keep Steve Shimko, because I think we were very curious about Steve Shimko and like his influence and stuff. And I think last year he was just basically like an analyst or whatever. But the fact that he stayed on staff, they decided to retain him, I think speaks volumes about like what he meant and how they felt like he was valuable, and decided to give him a promotion. And I think with Lunda Wells is one of the most respected tight end coaches in the league.
Right.
And our young tight ends have really been coming along. I mean, I think every year, the second year for the tight ends, they take a leap. Jake did that. Jake took such a big leap, ended up making the Pro Bowl, that we really did think that, that he was going to be a staple piece, on our offense. Unfortunately, 2024 said that was not the case, but possibly Ferg could get back to what he was. Maybe it was just an off year because of that knee injury, or I don't know. But I think, with Schoon, I think Schoon made a lot of improvement in the beginning to gain confidence all throughout the season. Same thing with like Brevin Spanford. And so, I am glad that we were able to keep Lunda. And it does seem like, all of these coaches from Pete Carroll, Lunda Wells, Dan Quinn, Eberflus, the rest of these coaches and whoever they've asked, those are just the names that can come in my head right now, is that they do believe that Shotty is special. And I know fans, I know y'all really don't give a damn because y'all like, yeah, of course they're going to say that, that's their boy, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, all of them, the message has been consistent, is that he's been ready. This has been an opportunity that he's been wanting, but he's just been waiting for his shot. They think he's special, the way that he deals with the players. Even listening to former players like Andrew Whitworth talk about Shotty, and I forgot there was more players that came out and spoke about him. But I think a lot around the league,
Sherman. I think Richard Sherman. I think put I think said a couple of words about Shotty being a good coach.
Right, I didn't hear that, but I mean that's even another. A lot of people have come out and endorsed Shoddy, right? A lot
Yeah.
of people, a lot of Hall of Fame players, a lot of Hall of Fame coaches, and things like that have come out and said they think this is a great opportunity for him. So of course we got to see how it goes, but I do think that and I think Joe he said sometimes you get lucky and hire you, you basically you hired the guy that no one liked, basically nobody wanted, but sometimes that can work out for you and that could be the right decision
Yeah.
compared to going with a more glamorous pick like a Ben Johnson or a Prime or Bill Belichick or whatever. So
Yeah.
we definitely will have to see how it goes. But I would say I am excited to see what Shotty is gonna do. You know what I'm saying, and how he's gonna be able to put his imprint on the locker room and in the culture. And our player grades came out today regarding how they view the ownership and
Yeah.
the coach and the facility and all that stuff. And I think it was important. I think it was an important point that Mike McCarthy as a head coach got an A.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
in the locker room was an A too. So the players, despite then they had something else to say about Jerry, but the players seemed to really love each other and they really did love Mike McCarthy and what he brought. So, it's kind of like Brian, you do have some shoes to fill, you know what I'm saying? You do have relationships to make and things to do before everybody in here is just gonna buy into you. But I think that he is set up because like I said, you come from a coach with who sat at the table with the NFL great and his dad.
Right.
I just feel like that means something. You know what I'm saying? And yeah,
Yeah.
I just think it means something. But yeah, and
Yeah.
these are the great. Hmm.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I just brought, like I said, I just brought the grades while you were talking about this, and I definitely agree with you. I mean, we kind of talked about that last year, just slightly kind of touching on it about, we talked a lot about McCarthy's, connection with the offense, right, and how they saw him as a leader and building that kind of culture in the locker room. But I'll say me, I don't know if we necessarily last year pointed out a lot of defensive players that were really staying on the table for McCarthy, how that kind of came out and spoke about how, if we brought back McCarthy and he did things on his own terms, he could do this, that, and the third, right? But we didn't hear a lot of defensive players saying that. But to your point, to see them give McCarthy a grade, a grade of an A, and to kind of reference the culture that he did build in the locker room, I think that's, like you said, for Shy to have to be able to have to fill those shoes, especially after having a down year. We kind of talked about it last week about how Riley, kind of mentioned in his interview from last year about if a team kind of goes through some adversity, those are really the times that they can kind of build that kind of chemistry, that kind of culture where you can kind of, persevere through those hard times. I think it just kind of says a lot for them to, even in this moment right here, bringing in a new head coach, new coordinators, pretty much from the top down, is almost brand, of course, outside of ownership, it's pretty much, you're going to have new faces coming in with the draft and undrafted alike. I just think I think it stands out, at least in my opinion, that they kind of gave a high, high regard for Mike McCarthy, even though he's gone, and it's kind of left on a sour note as far as between, I'll say, maybe Jerry and McCarthy, not necessarily the McCarthy and the players, but although we did see how it kind of played out between McCarthy and the front office, I think it's great that he left that kind of imprint on the locker room, and that they actually conveyed it. It's not a secret. It's not, Shai is coming in, and also I like how that Jay Glazer also actually brought out the fact that McCarthy helped Schottenheimer with his interview. So I just love the, I don't want to say legacy, because it was good 5 years, and I like that the time that McCarthy that did spend here, but I do like the imprint that he left on this locker room.
Absolutely, and I think it's important. And shout out to Angie. What's up, Angie? Rico, Stephen White came in here. John Jones.
Yes, Max.
I think we shouted out Lee already, but what's up to you guys? Very happy to see y'all. Very happy to see y'all in the chat, joining with us. But yes, I think it does speak volumes. And I think it's important too, because a lot of people were saying, especially last year, and that's why I was kind of getting mad, and some people got mad at me. Some Cowboys insiders got mad at me because I started talking about how media was using rage bait. But that's what I was talking about. It's like, just because a team is losing does not mean that the locker room is is destroyed and they're weak and everybody hates each other. Like they just kept trying to put that stuff out, and it just wasn't true. It just wasn't true. And I didn't like that. You know what I'm saying? I stand on that. Like I didn't like how the reports were coming out that it was just, toxicity. And it just wasn't the case. And I almost felt like the media wanted there to be locker room blow ups and wanted us to lose out the season, so they could just, stir the pot. And I just don't like that type of stuff. So but anyway, let's get into the interviews. I think you said you had an interview with White Cotton.
Yeah.
This is interview from today, I think.
All right, let me see. And actually, before we start this off, I do have a I just kind of want to get your hold on. I think there's feedback from when I was recording this. Can you hear me, sis?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I hear something in the background like rain or something.
Yeah, me too. I'm not really sure.
Like, what the heck is that?
It just kind of came out of nowhere. It's not. It looked like it's the music. Hold on. Let me see if I can change it because for whatever reason, yeah, it was that music setting. 1 second.
Okay, that's
yeah, there I go. I don't know why I did that. I did that out of nowhere. Sorry about that. Maybe it kind of skipped and just kind of froze. But
oh no, okay, but
yeah, okay, good. It sounds better now. But yeah, before we get to the interview, I kind of want to get because I was kind of it just kind of clicked in my head when I was kind of watching these interviews, kind of compared to some of the interviews I was watching last week with Clayton Adams, Junior Adams. Kind of I'll say the offensive side of the ball a little bit, of course, outside of Eberflus, but kind of watching some of the interviews today, I was kind of getting some of the same message, playing aggressive, being where the ball is. Like, actually, we talked about last week when we were talking about, it was actually White Cotton who said, make sure you're running to the ball until, there's fire in your lungs and, and keep doing that. But like I mentioned, I think I mentioned off camera, but White Cotton actually, we talked about last week about Eberflus actually putting it out there, putting his message out there, how he wants the defense to play, but also kind of saying, not blatantly to the front office, hey, we need these guys, but we kind of say we need better guys versus good guys, right? And then actually in White Cotton's interview, he actually mentions that, I trust Will McClay, I trust the Joneses to be able to fulfill this role. We want to do our part as far as, giving them a vision of what we want. At the same time, we need the front office, to do this. So I kind of had the clip from his interview, and then I don't have the clips from the other interviews from the other defensive coaches, just talking to the chat. But I'm going to just kind of get some points that I got from, coaches like David Overstreet, Dave Borgonzi, I believe his name, Andre Curtis, and I think that's it. And then I think I already mentioned Overstreet, who actually, to your earlier point, Star, you mentioned Steve Shimko. Overstreet actually mentioned that, we talk about Schottenheimer and relationships and things like that. Overstreet actually coached with Steve Shimko in junior college. You know what I'm saying? And he actually mentioned that Flus was his defensive coordinator and his position coach in college, was David Overstreet's position coach and DC in college. So we talk about familiarity and just another connection in the web, right? Just how familiar these guys are with each other. And what I was going to ask you, sis, is that just kind of keeping in mind with these clips, we talk about the guys that they hired on the offensive side. We talk about Clayton Adams that they brought in, Derek Foster, who actually mentioned in his interview that he hadn't really had any past relationship, quote unquote, with Schottenheimer, right? But he was hired, right? And then we also have Connor Riley and Clayton Adams, who never actually worked together, but they spent a lot of time off field. But on the defensive side of the ball, you have Eberflus, who they brought in, and then you have a lot of his guys who came over from Chicago who are now here with Eberflus. And then you also have guys like, I believe his name is Carlos Polk, who was I think his assistant special teams coach, I think, in Jacksonville. So just all of these, I don't want to say random is not the right word I want to use, but just for sake of comparison, right? We have a lot of hires on the offensive side who don't have quote unquote connection, but we have guys who are connected to Eberflus on the defensive side. So I think that they're trying to create consistency by having a little bit more connection on the defensive side with Eberflus, vice connection with Schottenheimer. So what do you think about how they're kind of creating that continuity with bringing in a coaching staff who was more familiar with Eberflus?
Yeah, I think that Eberflus, he did bring a lot of guys on from Chicago or guys that he had past relationships with. But I do know that White Cotton was an outside hire. and that
Right.
they didn't have a relationship, and that is a key position for Eberflus, because the emphasis on Eberflus's defense, is everybody talks about how he needs that three tech, he needs that dominant three tech to really make his defense work, and then also the linebacker. So I think that on both sides, but Shotty did seem to go more outside of the box than Eberflus. I think with Eberflus, because it's a complete regime change over there on that side of the ball, he needs people there that can actually be able to teach his system quicker compared to Shoddy, who's already been here. And so with Shoddy, he's kind of already got his installs. Of course, he's going to change things and stuff like that, because he's going to be able to partner up with Clayton Adams, and add to the run game and actually scheme the run game up, because it seemed like we hadn't really had a run game scheme under Mike McCarthy. But I do think that the reason why they did more for familiarity on the defensive side is because he needs guys that can teach that system faster. And you got to think, if you bring in a whole bunch of outside guys, you have to not only get them up to speed, right? You got to get the coaches up to speed, then trust the coaches that they're going to get the players up to speed. So I think just to streamline the process, they were like, let me go ahead and get a lot of my guys in here to ease the process. Ease the learning process. That's my thoughts on why it seemed like, Eberflus did hire a lot of his guys that he's had past connections with outside of White Cotton. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks for that point. Yeah, because that was a great point right there.
We always have all these conversations.
And the question that he asked, it kind of got cut off, and the questions are kind of quiet when the media asks. But the question that he's asked is, what's his thoughts on having to pay Osa and then having those staple guys at those positions, defensive end and the interior defensive tackle.
Like with this guy, with that guy, I trust in the Jones family and Mr. McClay to do that and get the right people on the boat. The biggest thing that we go through right now is we give them a vision for what we're looking for. Give them, here are the traits that we love, here are the things that are important to us, and then we count on them to do a great job. And they have drafting and free agency here of getting those type of, and just having that open communication, so we're all on the same page about what we're looking for and what we want. That's the biggest thing, and it's been awesome.
What are the top things you're looking for in terms of edge rusher, defensive tackle?
We need explosive athletes. We need guys that are change the line of scrimmage, and they're great versus the run, and they also affect the passer. So those are the biggest things that we look for in those, just these explosive athletes that play on the other side of the line of scrimmage.
Patrick.
So he kind of echoes the same message that Clayton Adams, when asked about his offensive lineman, and he said, it's pertains to everybody on offensive side of the ball. White Cotton has the same message for his players, being violent, adjusting the line of scrimmage, what I'm saying, and being active at the line of scrimmage as well. Eberflus's main message was, he wants his defense to take away the ball, right? And if you kind of look at the rest of these interviews, they kind of expound on that. A lot of the coaches like Overstreet. Even Andre Curtis kind of mentions, different ways to take away the ball, not just intercepting and not just having guys that can take away the ball through interceptions, but he mentions batting balls down at the line of scrimmage. He also mentions when the ball is thrown to you, actually go for it. Even Overstreet mentions, he kind of wants the guys to have a mentality to kind of take it as a slight of disrespect. If the guy is throwing to you, he's taking it as when the guy lined up across from you, the wide receiver, is better than you. And I think, in my opinion, I think what these coaches are trying to instill is not only to play aggressive, but also to have that aggressive mentality to where, you have that thought of, you want to be better than the guy lined up across from you. You want to take the ball away. You want to strip it. You want to have a fumble recovery. You want to go after the ball by any means necessary. I just like that they're not only trying to build that physicality, but also trying to get into these guys' heads, because that's also the first step. And also another, nugget I got from these interviews from the linebacker coach of Borgonzi, he said that while they were in Chicago, they actually had a 30 visit with Maris Leofau. And, Maris was actually one of the players that he mentions in his interview. So I think, Leofau, of course, I think, I think as we've seen from last year on his road to being, being the green dot of our defense, kind of starts with the leader. They kind of have a head start, in my opinion, with Leofau already kind of knowing the player. We talk about relationships, but, them kind of having that past meeting with him and kind of have a head start of who they want, their green dot to be. And they also, already seen, his film from last year, and also just kind of seeing how he, progressed from his college year to that first year in the NFL. They can kind of use that, kind of take that foundation and actually kind of, go forward with actually developing him and, Overshown. And of course, the other linebackers they decided to bring into that room, through the draft or otherwise free agency, what have you. But I just like that they kind of have this head start. I'll say me, I kind of worried about the transition from going from last year to this year, but just kind of hearing just some of these nuggets that kind of come out, through these interviews about how they kind of know some of these players and these coaches, I think that the transition will be even smoother.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that, it's going to be very interesting because, we're changing up schematically. We're kind of, because, when he talks about, we need explosive guys. We need guys that want to attack, guys that want to get upfield, compared to, what's his name? Compared to Zimmer's defense, which was the defensive line was most likely their job was to hold up blocks, keep contained, and you let the linebackers flow around. And
Right.
for Eberflus, it's the opposite. It's that the D line,
Right.
and then somebody, I think he talked about it. I don't think you probably don't have that clip, but he did talk about how
Yeah, at the end. Mm-hmm.
how Mozzie fits into the scheme, and how, because when I look at Mozzie he does have explosiveness and athleticism that showed flashes last year. And honestly, when I look at Mozzie, I forgot, somebody said, I kind of see like a Grady Jarrett or a I'm trying to think of another type of, or maybe like a poor man's Jonathan Allen or something like that, or something else on the line of that, where a guy who really has that pass rush ability, on top of, has the pass rush ability on top of being able to be strong enough to like shed blocks. And that's like a technique that I think they really hounded in Mozzie. And I think that's why you started seeing Mozzie get better, especially with the technique of being able to hold his ground, split the double teams. And so now you're going to pair that, pair the because his focus last year was stopping the run. So now you're going to pair that type of behavior, and then you layer it on top of, or you pair that type of learning, you layer it on top of, they're going to really, I think they're going to be able to get the explosiveness out of Mozzie.
Yeah.
Because we saw in the Giants game, Mozzie has the ability to reset the line of scrimmage, because that's something that he said. He said, we want guys that can come in, reset the line of scrimmage, get to the backfield. We want the way they stop the run is not by maintaining gaps. The way that they stop the run is get upfield and get the running back before he can even get past the line of scrimmage. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how these guys, and then you talked about, the linebackers and things like that, and, how they already have met with Maris and stuff like that. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they get these guys together. But I do think on both sides of the ball, the emphasis, and I think this is coming from Shoddy, is what they're saying, is that the emphasis is violence. The emphasis is to attack. The emphasis is to be able to oppose your will on another team. And that's something that the Dallas Cowboys really haven't been able to do since like 2016, where we were able to actually just impose our will on people and wear people down with extreme physicality. So it's going to be real interesting to see, and then, you bringing back the we talked about it last week, but you're also bringing back the component of takeaways, which wasn't an emphasis in Zimmer's defense. So I think we're going to get back to that type of thing that really does, cause our cornerbacks to excel, getting upfield, is more so what, a player like Osa, a player like Mozzie and them are, maybe built for. And I know Mozzie too gapped in college, right? But I think that ultimately, I think that he has the ability to be both. And then somebody asked, is Osa against the run? Osa had some struggles against the run. I ain't gonna lie at the beginning of the season, but to me, he too got better. And I think he finishing 11th for defensive tackles and run stops. So that's pretty good. You know what I'm saying? So I think, the players are going to get better. And I think for the front, this scheme likely fits them better than Zimmer's scheme, to be honest. I do think that, like, the whole defense as a whole and the current personnel, I do think that Eberflus's scheme fits better. Although we did like how Zimmer, the blitz packages and stuff, and how he used the linebackers, we did like that. And that is something that we're likely not going to see from Eberflus because he doesn't really blitz a whole lot. But, these coaches, they upgrade their schemes and stuff like that. So because he doesn't blitz a lot doesn't mean he's not going to blitz at all or do anything that's creative. And what's up, Chris Hennigan? Glad to see you.
Shout out to Chris on the Facebook group. Yeah, appreciate you, fam.
Really appreciate your support, brother.
Yeah, and those are all excellent points. I'm glad you actually brought up Mozzie because I actually do have that tail end of the interview in the middle of this clip because he and actually like how excited he got because I believe it was Clarence who asked about Mozzie in the system, and he does exactly just like you said, Star. He mentioned that the front seven is the most important part. He wants his front seven to attack, and even David Overstreet mentioned that. I think the quote is, he said, "A great secondary starts with a great front D line." Where I was talking about earlier, how you cause havoc at the line of scrimmage, causing havoc upon the passer. You know what I'm saying? And even Overstreet mentioned, he said his saying that if the quarterback throws the ball, he doesn't want it anymore. So you have to make him regret, throwing the ball, like making sure that you make put that much pressure on your opponent, and especially for those guys in the trenches. That's where the game starts at, right? It starts at the line of scrimmage and in those trenches. And if you're able to kind of get those guys, I know it's on the opposite side of the ball, but I was listening to the interview that Will Hernandez had, during Radio Row, and he had this quote. He said that if you can get the defense off their heels, and it's not about technicalities and how you actually play the game of football, if you have to actually make them become a true athlete, you can knock them on their heels, right? So I think if you kind of take that philosophy and kind of bring it. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second, sis. I'm sorry.
Okay. But yeah, guys, I think that ultimately, I think it's going to be interesting to see how these players, how they're more explosive. And shout out to my guy, 100 Grand. He said we might get a lot of picks in the system. That's what I'm saying. I do think that this system, I really do believe that. I do believe that overall, personnel-wise, that this system is going to fit our players more. Because you got to know that, like, this is the system. And granted, we've got a lot of different personnel, but looking at our current personnel defensively, when you look at Osa was what, top 3 in pass rush can't even say that word, pass rush win rate, right? Yeah. You got Mozzie, right, is another person. Then we're going to talk about potential free agents that we can add around Mozzie on the defensive line, right? And then we're going to talk about how, your 2 edges, because you got a guy like a Marshawn Nealon, who is really a 4-3 defensive end, just like D-Law and stuff like that. So you got these guys, which they were in a 4-3 system, right? But in this system, they're gonna be able to use their violence, strength, and attack a lot more compared to Zimmer's system. Because remember, in Zimmer's system, the defensive line is not the focus. They're secondary to the linebackers. Compared to now, it's like both is the focus, but the defensive line is really what makes everything go in Eberflus's system. So, but yes, I think he was gonna show the clip of I'm gonna go ahead and show the tail end of this interview where he got, like I mentioned, like just like you were saying, he got excited about working with Mozzie. I think, like I said, to your earlier point about
I think they'll be able to take Mozzie's kind of developmental years and kind of capitalize off that, because I think he just ready to, like, even he's mentioned to you, he's ready to just cut him loose.
That you learned under
Exactly. Yeah. What's up, Mr.
What did
Deepa?
you learn from Salad defensively?
Glad to see you in the chat.
Install here in Dallas?
Oh, God. And there were so many people at the Jets, including Saleh, that helped form and give me opportunities to do things. It's just the style of defense is the most important thing. Attacking, great fundamentals. We do all the little things at a high level, very detailed. We may not do a million different defenses, but we do them at a high level. We do them detailed. I think that's the biggest thing is our style of play, our violence, our effort, our passion, how fun we have playing football, and then just being detailed in everything that we're doing. That's critical. And it doesn't matter what team you're with or what your scheme is. If you don't get those base things done, shoot, you ain't got a chance.
What are you asking those guys to do? Are they read and react? Do you attack? I mean,
we're attack front. So what you've seen from us in San Fran and with the Jets, we're attack front, and I want those guys to play on the other side of the line of scrimmage and get after people and play hard. That's
a guy like Mozzie is not about occupying blockers; it's about getting upfield.
Yeah, well, and I'm excited about Mozzie. Mozzie's a explosive athlete who has like good length and all these kind of things. He's a great kid. Like, man, let's cut this guy loose and let's go have fun with it. I think Mozzie will do a great job in this front for us.
Right. Yeah. And I think, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, sis.
Okay. I was just gonna say, I think what he said was important, because he said, listen, we may not do a lot of defenses. And I think with Zim he really is a creative mastermind, which he had a lot of different looks, and that's one thing that makes Zim defense go. However, that's why it did take us a while, because basically to get Zim's defense, you probably need about a year or so to really, you probably ain't gonna see the best of his defense till year 2, right? We saw the defense start to finally gel like mid-season and beyond, but beginning of the season, it was bad. Our defense was so bad at the beginning of the season that we ended up finishing. We still, even though we liked some of the defensive performances in the middle of the season to the end, we still finished one of the worst defenses in the league.
Right.
And versus the run, we were still bottom 2. I think only the Washington Commanders was worse than us versus the run. So when you think about those, he said in our defense. And I think this is because people are like, oh, we're going back to Dan Quinn defense. But I said no, because Dan Quinn was not about, listen to what he said. He said, we may not do a lot of defenses, but we do the defenses that we do at a high level, paying attention to every single detail. And so we didn't get details under Dan Quinn. We low-key didn't get under Mike McCarthy, but today we're talking about defense. We did not get details under Dan Quinn. We did not get discipline under Dan Quinn. And that's why we had the penalties, and that's why we had the issues versus the run and all of this type of stuff. And I think even Dan Quinn's defenses, would tail off in the pass rush and stuff like that, because the same effort and everything like that was not there. So I really do think that these guys are going to hound in that system. They're going to hound in that system, but they're going to make them great at it, and I think that's going to how the players are going to be able to catch on a lot faster, because it's not going to be so many different fronts and looks and twists and turns and ups and downs, which can work. But
they have pretty much like they have stable players at each position, almost at each position on defense. They have, like we mentioned earlier, with Maris at linebacker, and they were able to get a new coach for him. They also brought in, new coaches at defensive back, but they also have seasoned guys like Trey Diggs. They have Deron Bland. So it's not going to be too many new faces trying to learn a new scheme. You feel what I'm saying? But like you mentioned earlier, with them being able to bring in coaches that relate to Eberflus, or that have worked with Eberflus before, like you said, able to kind of relay his philosophy to those players at each level, like you said, so that way he doesn't have to spend that much time at each, having to cover each base. You can have those guys having their hands on those players.
Absolutely. And I agree, like we got to have just a way of our line, I think, needs to be a lot more physical. You know what I'm saying? And so that seems like that's what they're going to be honing into us. And we got the actual defensive line to kind of really push that mentality. Because we like Aiden Dirty, but was he that great as a defensive line coach? I don't think so. Because we didn't really see players like Chauncey, Osa, who else? I can't think of it, but even Micah, D-Law didn't play this year, but even Micah, like, we saw the best years of them under Zimmer compared to Dan Quinn. So hopefully these guys are able to unlock and take these players' play just up to a different level. When you think about Salah's defense on the Jets, when you think about his defense in San Fran, those are very, very dominant, top of the line defenses. So hopefully we can get there with these coaches for sure.
And I think one thing that would help them get there. One thing I heard David Overstreet kind of mention in his interview that he allows, or not just him, but I think part of Eberflus's philosophy will allow the players to kind of self-correct. It won't necessarily be kind of a blanket teaching, right? Like, this is just kind of what I picked up in my opinion from Overstreet's interview. He kind of said that he's going to listen to the players' input in the game and then still instill that trust in them to allow the players to self-correct and adjust in game, but also, off the field as well, during practices, things like that. And, he kind of mentions, kind of customizing the scheme to the player instead of having the player adjust the scheme to the player, right? So that way you kind of put in not just Overstreet, but Curtis also mentioned this too, putting these players in advantageous positions that way they can, that way they can actually progress, that way they can actually grow in their own particular game. Because you want the team to be successful as a team, but if you have, a broken link in the chain, you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? And not calling a player a weak link, but if you have everyone getting the philosophy and you have one player who not necessarily, I don't want to say can't get it or can't do it, but they have their own style of learning or their own style of being able to do something, and I like that the coaches are going to allow them the freedom to actually do that kind of, I want to say kind of allowing the player to play in their own way, but at the same time, make sure that it kind of adheres to the system, and that way they don't fall all the way off. But at the same time, they can also progress in their own individual game, but also helps the team also grow.
And so it just and I like that. I think it allows room to how you want to be able, and that seems like a thing too of like let the play. We're going to adapt to our players and build a scheme around what they can do best. And I think that's very important instead of getting a player and trying to turn them into something. Because that was Dan Quinn's thing. I'm going to get this player. I have this vision for him, and I'm going to turn him into this.
Right.
And sometimes it's like, listen, just let the player build off of what they're already good at.
Exactly.
Turning them into this new thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so, Zimmer kind of the same way, because it's like, you have two corners that are elite at taking the ball away, but then you say, that ain't my system. We ain't doing it. We ain't focusing on that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, when we get a system that the players can already build on their top strengths, that seems to be the best plan of action, and that seems to be the goal for this entire coaching staff. And I'm actually quite excited about it to see like what these coaches do, prayerfully, and hopefully they're allowed to actually coach and not be interfered with. But I think I'm really excited to see how these guys, are going to move forward. And I think you said did you have a clip you said from Eberflus's?
Yes. Let me see. Let me find it.
The whole coaching, well, not the whole coaching staff, but I just think the coordinators, Shoddy, Eberflus, Clayton Adams, and I think who else? They actually took a lot of the staff, because I think the offensive line coach the wide
receivers coach was there too.
So I do like his like the whole coaching, because I'm like, did we do that in the past? I feel like years past the coaching staff was not going to the combine.
Yeah, I don't even think McCarthy went, so I would find it hard to imagine if
I don't ever remember. So I think it's kind of interesting, because another thing that I am hearing, sis, like from all the coaches, is that from Steven, from Will McClay, is that this word of alignment, and they're gonna over communicate, and they're gonna tell us what they want, and it's like, it makes me think like, was Mike McCarthy not communicating? I think we kind of talked about it last week, but
yeah,
the interesting to see that it's like an emphasis is
yeah,
like bringing the whole coaching staff there so that they can be in the rooms with Will McClay and Steven be like, this is, like they're really letting them know these are the players. Like I'm letting you know right here and now, not, oh, I watched the film back at the Star but they're really like there on the ground. And I think that kind of says something like the coaching staff being there on the ground, watching these prospects and really overly communicating and building that relationship with Steven and Will McClay.
Yeah. And each other. I mean, and Clayton Adams mentioned too that they're spending a lot of, he said they're spending a lot of times in hotel rooms and, just really in rooms just discussing, like you mentioned, just the game plan, just the vision that they have for the team. And like I said, well, let me go ahead and play this last part of the clip about Eberflus and just how he feels like where the staff is, as of right now, just within this combine
week. A little
week.
bit of both, like
the coaching staff has to do a really good job of
that last part of I'll say just quickly that last part of White Cotton's interview was just how he feels about effort, just if effort could be taught to a player, and he had the same message that Clayton Adams had. He just wants the players to be around the ball at all times and just running as hard as you can on each play,
and that we can consistently work on. It will always
be go ahead.
The coaching staff are on the same page, so the coaching staff has to do a really good job of painting that vision for what we want the players to look like in terms of their position and their disposition. The traits are always there and all that, but Mitch LaPointe does a great job, in terms of the director of college scouting, and Will McClay does a good job as well of heading that group, and the area scouts, they get all the credit because they're the guys out there looking for what we want to have on the football field. So it's really just a group effort.
Can you expand some more on where you feel like this staff is at and how important that is going forward?
Yeah, I think it's really good. Like I said, paint the vision for what the player can do for us, and certainly, players can only do so many things, but what can they do for us? And that's an important part of it as we evaluate these guys. It's a really good draft in a lot of areas for us, and we're excited about this one.
For this team specifically, when you look at the coaching staff and an influx of college guys and some youth that has been kind of inserted into the staff, what do you feel like guys like Junior Adams and Connor Riley and on your side in the defensive room, J.J. Clark are bringing to the table in terms of, hey, they've seen some of these guys in college and have a little bit more perspective on it?
That's a great point. And I was once a college guy coming into the pro game, and the fresh ideas that you have, not only with evaluating players and looking at players, but also schematically, as we get to going with these guys, during the meeting. So I love bringing those guys in, fresh ideas. And again, those guys knowing those players personally is going to really help us in the draft.
Look, so I just think he made some great points right there about why they're bringing in younger coaches from the college. And we talked about that, I think, a little bit last week, but yeah, I just like how Eberflus kind of expounded on it. He not only mentioned, schematically, but also the coaches being close with the players. I mean, we know Junior Adams, I believe he comes from Oregon. I don't follow the draft, but I know there's a wide receiver that they link with Oregon that, I think his name is
Tez Johnson.
Oh, Tez Johnson?
Yeah, Tez Johnson is the wide receiver. And then there's a defensive lineman from Oregon, which is, his name is Birch. I watched him. Let me see if I can pull him up. He's a guy that's really a defensive tackle Eberflus fit, which we can now transition into talking about Osa.
Yeah.
Who the Joneses have said that they are in contract talks with Osa already. But just what do you think about them being in contract talks with Osa and not Micah Parsons?
I'm definitely shocked, that they decided to talk to Osa first. Shout out to the final word. Shout out to Boss Cowboy, Law Nation, OC, Big Game James. They talked about this last night. They made the point of how are you paying your light bill for your mortgage? Like, Michael Parsons came out and made the point that he's willing to work with them, contractually, willing to take less. I'm saying that's not something you really hear a player talk about every day, if at all. I'm saying it's talk around the league about Bengals trying to make chase the highest paid, non-quarterback. So
Yeah.
while that's going on, even you have Joe Burrow over there, lobbying for Chase, lobbying for Higgins.
Right.
You know what
Yep.
I'm saying? So when you see things like that, things like that are possible, right? So
Yep.
just seeing Stephen Jones in the front office just talk about how we're only allowed a limited amount of resources and things like that. Things like this is when you have you see a quarterback fight for his players that he wants to get paid. And shout out to you, sis. You said this about putting pressure on Dak to speak up, and sometimes the things you need, even in shortly after Burrow even came out saying that he wants these players signed, Bengals came out and saying, hey, we're going to try and make this happen. We're going to try to, even if they have to go as far as tagging Higgins again, which no player wants to be tagged twice. But if the organization is talking about keeping you, where you feel at home, where what I'm saying, where you feel most comfortable at, you're more willing to be open to that. So I like what they're doing over there. This is the time for free agency. And, we also see other teams, allowing. We saw Jonathan Allen, was allowed to, seek out a trade. Shout out to you, sis, and shout out to Big Game James, who's been on that for a while. And it's crazy because just a quick point, because I'm actually, as you guys know, I'm here in the DMV area, and I actually saw today on the news that they're actually doing combine coverage, and I've never seen them actually do combine coverage. Maybe because Washington was kind of a bad team before, and now they feel like you have a point to actually go. But tried the big game, like you said. Yeah, I saw the same thing. They Fox, I say News 4 here covered that interview when Jonathan Allen was mad and pissed off about how they played, a couple of years ago. So that'll be, as we kind of transition from talking about that to kind of going to free agents, that's definitely a free agent. Like you talked about Star, that's something that as far as that position, what I'm saying, that's definitely something that we need to hone in on in this off season.
Absolutely, and y'all know how I feel. I did my breakdown. If y'all can go watch on my channel. I broke down Stephen Jones' whole combine interview, and talked about how it just doesn't make sense to pay your car note before your rent is due. You have more time, and the thing is, I get people's sentiments that okay, coach, but Osa's about to hit free agency, and I'm like, so you can still negotiate with him in free agency, right? He's not a player, and I like Osa, and I want Osa to resign, but Osa's not a player where I'm scared that some team is going to offer him this contract and we're going to lose him. Because I'm like, if any team offers Osa some crazy ass contract, it's gonna be a sucky team. And Osa, you can make that decision. You want to go play for the Panthers? I mean, go be my guest. You know what I'm saying? So that's my mindset. It's like Micah is already late. We should have paid him last year. When
there was news, I don't make you also, but when there was news of Josh Allen, the pass rusher, being signed, that's when they should have been having talks of, okay, we should probably, be thinking about paying Micah just a little bit earlier because he got that big contract.
Exactly. Micah should have already been paid. And I think this is what the Cowboys do. They like to wait and wait and wait. Yeah, we'll pay. It's just ass backwards. They did the same stuff when it was time to pay Dak. They paid everybody and their mama, then paid Dak last. And guess what? The price went up. You could have had your quarterback for 33, 35 million. You ended up having to pay him 40. You could have had Dak for 55, 54 million. Now you're having to pay him 60. It's like you're going to F around and do the same thing with Micah. And, in the interview, Stephen was like, well, we don't have that many extenuating circumstances as there was with Dak and CD. So he doesn't see, it being a long holdup. But it's like, Stephen, get it done now. And if you're watching this, or TP, his brother, you need to put a deadline on it. I know you said that I'm going to be team friendly, but if these guys have not signed you by draft, then all of that needs to be thrown out the window.
Yeah.
It really does. If they have not signed you by the draft, all that discount team friendly needs to go. Because at that point, all the good premium free agents are going to be gone. Like Micah said, I'm going to be team friendly so that we can get people around me.
Right.
So this is what I'm talking about. And you pay Micah, that opens up money. That opens up $18 million that you can spend in free agency. So you really need to get Micah paid as soon as possible because paying him is what opens up the most money. So it's like the Dallas Cowboys, I don't know, like they said, these contracts can be no traction and then it's signed tomorrow. But the fact that no talks have started is really irritating to me. And I think we really got to put pressure on the front office, and that's why we're doing the campaign. Hashtag 877 Pay Micah Now. Putting that on Twitter, put that on Instagram, put that on Facebook. If you want Micah to be signed now, we gotta get Micah signed now so that we can have that money to use in the free agency. Also, it's just a respect thing.
Talk about it.
A player of caliber, you don't make them wait. You don't pay. I'm gonna pay Jordan Lewis and also Diggy Zua and this person and that person. And no, that's disrespectful. And again,
especially when he jumped out first and saying he would be contract friendly. Like, cause you hardly see a player jump out first and say that I'll do this. If y'all not say I'll do this if y'all do this, but coming out himself and talking about his contract.
Yeah,
you don't see players talking about that a lot.
And then another name he's popping up is I'm thinking about. Okay, Will Anderson, he's not. No, this is the third year. So I think by your third year, you can get paid, like enter into your third year, because he was drafted in 2023. So I think for some reason, I'm like, can Will Anderson get paid now? Because that's definitely a person I feel like could get paid before Micah. They gonna overpay him. And then Micah's price, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like we need to get a move on that contract, because that's the contract that holds the most financial weight. But anyway, as we transition to the last segment, we can kind of talk about and that DT from Oregon that I was talking about. Oh, he's not a DT, he's an edge. I don't know why I say, but he's an edge. His name is Jordan Birch, and he's a 6'6" Eberflus type. If y'all don't know, Eberflus, he traditionally likes and I'll make sure. I'm sorry, before I get into that, there's somebody that True Cowboy. Thank you, True Cowboy, for coming in the chat.
Yeah,
and if you have questions about like the draft and stuff like that, we'll try to get to that at the end. But I'll say that with the his name's Jordan Birch, and he's a 6'6" guy, and so Eberflus traditionally likes his DTs to be huge, you know what I'm saying? So this guy, even though he's not necessarily an edge, I do think that I put him on a DT list because I believe the film that I watched that he could play inside. So I think that he may be a player that could kind of play across the line. So I think, when you're looking at the players and stuff and evaluating who they're talking to, for Eberflus, you're going to want to look for guys with extreme size, like 6'6", 6'7", because those are the guys. Yeah, those are the guys that he typically likes. That's why a lot of people are like, does Osa actually fit his scheme and stuff like that? And I'm like, yeah, because he's had shorter defensive tackles, but Osa can't be his own defense, his only 3-tech. You know what I'm saying? I do think that he's going to need a bigger guy. If his system is to truly work, he's going to need a bigger defensive tackle in that middle. So it'll be very interesting to see, what are the Cowboys going to do. But when we talk about free agents or potential trade targets, Mickey already mentioned Jonathan Allen, which is something that I've been on. Big Game James was on it before me because he was 2 years ago, but I was a year ago. I said, let's get Jonathan Allen here. He's already disgruntled. He only has like a year left on his contract, relatively cheap. And he's aging. I think he's like 30, 31. So you should be able to get him in the building via trade, or if they release him, that's a free agent that you should go after. Another defensive tackle free agent that I believe that the Cowboys should go after is Milton Williams. Milton Williams, who from the Eagles. That's another guy that you can come in. Him and Osa had similar production, and he had about 100 less snaps than Osa. So that's a guy that can come in, a rotational piece, can give you pass rush, can also help you stop the run. So those are my two guys that I'm thinking about now, just on the defensive line. Oh, and another guy, Harold. Of course, we want Myles Garrett, but as the days go by, I just don't know if that's going to happen. If it does happen, it's going to have to happen out. It's going to happen out of the blue because I just don't think that the Cowboys will be aggressive because the Browns don't want to trade him. And I'm like,
Exactly.
they're gonna say, send me the house. And I just don't think the Cowboys had the balls to do it. I would send 2 first-round picks for Myles Garrett right now, but are the Cowboys gonna do that? I don't think so. So
Yeah.
that's why. Go ahead.
I was trying to think of because I know I would assume that Khalil Mack wants to be like a starter, but I kind of thought when I was looking at pieces over there with the Chargers, I know they have a lot of free agents coming up. Khalil Mack, and even I think they have a couple DTs coming up for free agency. Puna Ford and Taylor Tart. I think that's how you say his first name, Taylor Tart. Now, I don't know if I have to look up.
I like Taylor Tart, but some people were saying he was a locker room cancer. But I was like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like he's done pretty well.
Yeah.
He's
And I mean,
yeah.
I think at this point in his career, he's kind of more of like a journeyman. But I think he started, his career started with the Titans. And my dad's other team is Tennessee. That's kind of I'm a little familiar with his name. But I mostly watched him last year, and kind of watching some film from the Cardinals last year. They played the Chargers, and I think he was more of like you mentioned, a rotational piece. He was more because I don't think he was starting. I think Ford was actually the starter, but I think he played well. I think he was able to get penetration. Cardinals ran the ball a lot to the outside in that game. So I wouldn't say he wasn't a huge factor in that particular game. I'll have to watch more of his film, but I think him and even Puna Ford. I'm not saying have to get both of them, but I think they both served the position well. And I just kind of thought needing both a DT and an edge, kind of like a 1-2 punch, getting Mac and either one of those DTs, I think would be a great grab. Another guy I saw on the list, there was I think a cheat sheet. I kind of favored it on Twitter, but another name I saw from the Lions, because the Lions just extended McNeil, and they had another DT over there, Levi. I hope I'm saying this right. Munzarike, and he was drafted 2021, still relatively young. I think they say they say he missed the season. I think because of his back, I believe. Just a little bit of research I did, but I think they say he's projected to get 2 years, $9 million. So I don't think that's extremely.
No, that's not bad, and that's the same thing. Like, so see, and y'all need to write down these names because these are probably names that the Cowboys are going to be looking at. You know what we say, former greats or young guys who just really haven't worked out on their team. Those are the guys that the Cowboys, but that they probably had a high draft grade on, coming out of the draft. Those are the guys that the Cowboys go after. So Jonathan Allen, I know for a fact the Cowboys wanted him, right? That's a serious prospect. That was a first round pick. That's a former great. You got, like you said, Levi Ozariki. I don't know what his draft pick was, where he was drafted, but he's
I may cut you off, but he was a second round draft pick.
Okay, yeah. So second round draft pick. Then you got Milton Williams. I'm not sure where he was drafted, but he's a young guy who's been in a stacked room looking for his opportunity. So that's another guy that you could think about going after. Another guy is cheap too, but also former greats. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care if the player's cheap. I just care about if they're good.
Right, because if they're good, like Jerry said, you can get about 2 or 3 for one if they're cheap. And
so it's like, I don't care.
You know
what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's what camp is for. That's what training camp is for these guys to battle it out, and you can actually find the better piece. You know what I'm saying? But
that's the key.
Right. Get the bodies in the room.
Get the bodies in the room, battle it out. I think my guy Rico said, we got to stop the our guys philosophy. And I agree with that. Stop the our guys philosophy.
Yeah.
And let these players battle it out. But yes.
And
go ahead.
And also to kind of expound on Nisi's point where I know she says cheap and injury prone. And like Star was saying, they may have had injuries early in their career, and that just kind of may have hindered them. And I'm not talking about players who, are just coming off injury or may still be dealing with injury, but if they're kind of down in the beginning of their career, and they kind of had an uptick, I'm saying, even another guy I saw on the list, I think his name was BJ Hill. I think he had a decent career. He just came up I think a 3-year contract with the Bengals. So I'm saying, and if these guys have some sort of stability in these organizations that they have kind of passed through, whether they are journeyman or not, but I mean, heck, we saw Carl Davis, who was a journeyman, I'm saying, he ended up on a playoff team. Al-Qadim Muhammad, guys that we've had here in the building who ended up on playoff teams, what I'm saying? So
KJ Henry won a Super Bowl with the Eagles.
Yeah. You feel me? So like at this point, like we talked about this earlier, we have our staple pieces, our starters, if you will, at most of our positions. So we're looking for those depth pieces, those guys who can kind of shore up, those rotational features who can come in and knock on wood, God forbid if we do have go through another unfortunate year of injuries. Hopefully we don't have another year like we did last year, but if we were to have some injuries, looking for guys who can kind of step in at those critical points in the season. Carl Lawson, I'm sure we didn't think a lot about him, but he was a huge piece that we were kind of pick up. Yeah,
we could bring back Carl Lawson. I think as far as, like you said, Khalil Mack, which the Chargers said they're gonna do their best to keep him, but if Khalil Mack hits it, another guy that was just said that he could seek a trade. And I've been liking this guy for a while, Harold Landry from the Titans.
Oh, okay.
Now that's a signing that I think is pretty good. Hold on, let me see how old is Harold Landry. Right, he's only 28. Right, he's played, I think, every game. He had one season where he got injured, but outside of that, he had only missed one game in his career. Right, this is a pass rushing machine, and I think he just got. Let me look at it. Like, these are the candidates that's like perfect for the Cowboys that would actually. To me, I look at him just like how when Philly added Hassan Reddick. That's how I look at Harold Landry. But he is a former Pro Bowler, and he. I'm trying to see. What was I trying to see with him? Oh, I was trying to see how many sacks. Yeah, he had 9. This is a guy that walk in. He can give you 10 to 9 sacks a year. His best year gave you 12 sacks. And he's a guy who started off slow, but he's been, trending up. So this is a guy that I definitely, Harold Landry, get on the phone. These are guys that you can get, but not that much. They're not that much.
Yeah.
3.5 sacks. Who had 3.5 sacks? We said we signed them as they are injured. That freaks me out. 3.5 sacks. I don't know who had 3.5. I don't know who you're talking about, but with the defensive tackles, you also got to see like if a defensive tackle is a 3-tech or a nose tackle, because you look at the nose tackle stats, it'd be non-existent. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't be having no stats, especially depending on the system. But with the 3-techs, that's where you're more so looking at the sacks, because they're more penetrators. And then another 2 more prospects that I think that we should be looking at is in the free agency is Charvarius Ward.
Ooh, in my list. Cause I had a couple more names. Yep.
Charvarius Ward. We drafted him, right? We ended up letting him go. I think we released him, whatever. Obviously, Charvarius Ward ended up becoming a dog, ended up becoming an all-pro. And he's leaving San Fran. That's a corner that you can get, because cornerback is a need.
Facts.
It is a need. I repeat, quarterback is a need, because with Diggs had that surgery. He probably ain't gonna be back till mid to its end of the season. We know Bland was struggling.
Right.
Coming back off of that foot injury. Yes, you're gonna sign J. Lou, but that's a slot corner. And we lost a lot of games. We've been losing a lot of games over the years because our cornerback 2 has not fit the bill. So we really need to go and look at getting Charvarius Ward. I don't know how old he is or whatever. I don't know what he'll be commanding. To be honest, but let me look at Charvarius Ward. I think he's an older guy now. I think he's like 29. He's 28. And he'll be 29 in May. So yeah, he's an older corner. He can be commanding commanding the world. I don't know how much he commanding, but these are guys that we need to be looking at.
Yeah, and actually, and speaking of that, another guy I see on the list, like I don't know if they'll be in the pursuit. Cause I mean, he's definitely young. I don't know if he was on their draft board, but Asante Samuel Jr. I saw his name on the list.
That's another one.
And he's
now, but with I'm gonna be honest with Asante Samuel, he's gonna be probably commanding a lot of money.
Yeah,
you gotta know this is his first contract.
That is true. That is true.
I would love to get Asante Samuel, but I think he will be one of the hot commodities on the street. So I don't know if the Cowboys are going to be selectively aggressive. But we'll see. Someone said, "What's up with Sam? Will he be ready to make an impact this season?" Possibly, because remember Sam got hurt at camp, so we'll have to see. And as far as I've seen, he's kind of like completely recovered, but I don't know. We really haven't had no update on him. So I don't know the status, but I think he should be. He should be ready by the season for sure. Somebody asked me as well about Marshawn Nealon. Do I think he'll shine in this system? Yeah, I do, because he's a true 4-3, like get up field type of defensive end. He's like a D-Law. That's what we said. He's baby D-Law, because he's really good against the run, but he's got to refine his pass rush skills. So if they can help him refine those pass rush skills with his strength, he's gonna be a premium power rusher for us. And I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get to these questions.
Yeah.
I think somebody asked too, like, should we draft 2 running backs? I would draft 2 running backs, but I think the Cowboys are likely gonna probably bring back Rico. I don't know, and we're gonna.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm surprised to hear that. I was surprised to hear that.
Me too, because I'm like, I don't know. With Rico, I just feel like I like Rico. I do like Rico, but I'm like, I mean,
Me too.
How much you want? Like, I just don't. I feel like Rico is pretty replaceable. I feel like why bring back Rico when you probably could get J.K. Dobbins or Nick Chubb for cheap? Like those are better than Rico. They have injury history. I ain't gonna lie, but they're better than Rico. So it's like, if you're gonna do the let's get a rookie and a vet, like look outside. But I'm not gonna give it away because we want to do a whole nother show on the offensive side and the free agents there, but. It would be interesting to see if we do that. I would be open though to get into running backs and just starting resetting that whole room over. I would be interested in that.
Yeah. I definitely agree. Just to kind of talk about that quickly, I definitely agree with that, especially, and not just that, but because you also have a Deuce, you also have a Hunter Lipke,
right?
And the guys that you potentially look at this year, it's just
give him a chance. Let's give Deuce a chance.
Yeah, especially when you're bringing in the coach who's able to create, what I'm saying?
To create out of him.
Exactly.
Let's give him a chance. I just do we really got to raise money? Because I feel like Rico, he had a career year. I don't think he's going to sign a vet minimum like he did this year. I think he's going to want some real money. And I'm just like,
exactly.
I'm just really not trying to pay you that. I'm sorry. We can use that money in other positions of need.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
And these seasons of face I made, because I was such like a Rico, like, I swear I was like a Rico pioneer this year. It's just, I just really feel like he fell, like, I mean, just like Pollard, like, I just can't stand to see the Cowboys just not fully utilize their players like they should, you know what I mean? And I just, even if I would have a different opinion if McCarthy just truly went Rico running back 1 the whole year through, and like you said, he definitely, I definitely agree with you, Steve.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Contract.
Vet men contract. And he shouldn't take a vet contract. He should try to go out there and get him a real contract.
Yeah. Because some teams are going to need a running back. They don't draft.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see some teams will give him an offer. So I hope we let him hit the free agency and he just gets outpriced. So
I love Rico. I just hope that, like you said, and that's another point they brought up on the final word last night. How Cowboys overspend on their own guys. I really think Rico deserve his contract, but I just hope that and just like Star mentioned earlier about, and that's kind of gave me a different perspective what she said earlier about Osa. Like, yeah, and I love Osa. He's a guy that I love. It's just like I don't want it to be a reason that we don't go after other guys because we definitely have more dire needs.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
My guys have. We got Osa, so we'll just draft the DTs. No, go. You got Osa, but go get Milton Williams. Go get Jonathan Allen too. Like it's time to get better. It's time to stop. Let's just go with this guy, and then we could just draft the guy. Like no. I want to get better. We need to get better. We need to have multiple resources, right? And guys that we can rotate in the front, in our front four to keep them fresh and keep them going. So I really think and one last guy on my list was Dre Greenlaw. Go and get Dre Greenlaw. I know we want Maris to be the green dot, and I'm fine with that, but he needs support. Overshown is probably not going to be ready by the beginning of the season. Let's be honest. And even if he is ready, he ain't going to be as explosive and stuff. It's going to take him a few games to get his legs back under him. So I think you go get somebody like, Dre Greenlaw used to give us hell with San Fran.
Yeah.
But Fred Warner wasn't the same this year without Dre Greenlaw. He's a very important, hard-hitting, sideline to sideline, bring the mentality type of linebacker. And that's the type of guy you want mentoring Maris, mentoring Overshown, mentoring whatever other young linebacker that we draft. That's the type of guy. And you're bringing them from San Fran mentality.
Yeah, and White Cotton mentioned that you heard him. That was one of the teams he mentioned in his interview. So he mentioned the Jets. He mentioned San Fran and how they play hard up front.
Yeah, so it's like these are guys that we need go get these. Go get. That's another thing, and that'll probably be my last thing, unless you have some more. Is that if the coaches want somebody, like they really want somebody, don't Dan Quinn them.
Facts.
Please get the coaches especially if the player is not breaking the damn bank. Like Bobby Wagner was never breaking the bank. You just refused to get him because you didn't want to replace LVE. Stop the nonsense. Stop our guys. It's killing us. It's killing our team. Reason why teams like Philly win Super Bowls is because they don't do our guys stuff.
Yep.
Allow fair and free competition. This is football. Guys should earn their spots. Not, you're going to be the guy because we drafted you.
Right.
Like, no. Let these players compete and battle it out and let the best man win. You did it with the coaching process, Steven. I heard you yesterday. We didn't. Shotty, he let the best man win. Okay. Well, go ahead and let the best man win as well with the players. Stop our guys BS because that's what's killing our team. And we sitting around here sad. Like, we suck and we never do this and we never do that. And it's like, we had that. We made the AJ Brown trade with Amari Cooper. But what did we do? Send him out of here for non-football reasons for a 5th round pick. Like, we bring the talent in here, then we do stupid stuff. And I'm tired of it. It's setting our team back. Let the players compete so that we can get the best players on the field. And maybe we can get over the freaking hump. If you allow true football culture to exist.
Yeah, fact. I agree with you, sis, and I can kind of see how. I mean, just like this is my last point. Earlier in the offseason, we seen Zimmer. We were kind of questioning whether they even offered Zimmer a chance to even come back. And my thing was, what if you had done this last year? What if you had taken the steps last year to kind of give Zimmer, I don't want to say free reign, but giving him his own coaching staff, giving him players. You wouldn't be having to have a whole reset a whole year later. You wouldn't have to have our defense learning yet another defensive coordinator scheme. And not saying, they'll come in and be bad. The players are supposed to do that's part of their job, learning a new scheme, but it shouldn't be every year. You know what I'm saying? We shouldn't have Micah Parsons under his third coordinator in 4 years. You feel what I'm saying? We shouldn't have Osa with his third coordinator. You know what I'm saying? I want just some sort of some consistency, and hopefully with this coaching staff coming in, we can kind of just have keep these guys around for a while. You know what I'm saying? Not just 1 year contracts. I think what they did last year with the coaches, and I know it's football. I know it's their job, but it's just having 1 year contracts just kind of uplifts everything after the year. So now they have to kind of start over. You know what I'm saying? So I hope that they kind of keep some kind of gleam of consistency, kind of keep these guys around, so that way we can actually see the growth and the progression in our players because.
I agree.
Not saying they don't have any responsibility to grow when you do have different coaches coming in, but at least on their part have the responsibility and keep that consistency with their players, so that way you can give them a chance to grow and see how they can progress. And that's like, even I think today our theme of our show is defense. Because we do see some consistency with the offense. It's just they couldn't seem to get some things down because you did have turnover with the offensive coordinator and the guys who were calling plays. But as far as the defense, I want to see consistency and just see progression from our young players, because we have a lot of young guys coming in on that side of the ball. I just want to see them, just be able to progress, especially, Maris. And just to your point earlier, sis, last point is that even though Maris did have that year last year, he's still going to need another year to develop and just kind of learn, especially with the new system coming in. I definitely agree with that point, bringing in a green dot guy, so that way you can make that transition just a little bit smoother for, our future leader on the defense. So just to kind of wrap up, I love all the points that we brought up in this show, sis. I think that, like, we talked about it last week, the Cowboys are kind of making different moves. We're hearing slightly different things this year than we heard last year. As far as Stephen Jones, say just the things he mentioned this past week. And I just love, like I mentioned yesterday, the baby steps that they're taking. We haven't seen action, quote unquote, yet.
But they made baby steps to where it looks like things could be heading in the right direction. Keyword could. We're not giving them more props than what they deserve, but we do give them props for how they handle the coaching staff. And you just think about it. Sorry, I said this is gonna be my last point for real, but Dan Fran brought back Salah because of how important and pivotal he was to their defense, and they kind of, they probably would bring back D'Amico Ryans if he wasn't the head coach, because their defense hadn't been the same since they lost those two. And Salah mentored D'Amico Ryans. Salah mentored our new coach, White Cotton.
Right. And you saw how he name dropped him. He actually mentioned what he learned. That pretty much is base of how he wants to teach his defense. So I think that was, I love that.
I think that's important. And I think the Cowboys, you went and got coaches from the best, right? Yeah. You went and got coaches, with new ideas and creativity. So it does show something, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what it's all going to result in, but I think that's a move in a positive direction. But anyways, guys, really appreciate you guys being in the chat with us, rocking with us. We didn't do a like break in the middle of the show, but please like the video. If you haven't, please like the streams on both my channel and Mickey's channel.
Yes.
And sis, can you take off the banner so they can see our and also please donate to our Cash Apps. It's right down there on the screen. Please donate. Anything helps. We really would appreciate it. Please be good. Subscribe to our channels if you haven't subscribed, and share the content if you haven't shared it already. Please help us out with that, guys. We really appreciate y'all, and thank y'all. We be hitting that 100 stream chat mark. Y'all be in here talking, so we really appreciate y'all talking with us and keeping the chat engaged as we go through.
Yes, 100% agree on everything you just said, sis. Thank you guys for spending your Wednesday evening with us. Please come back with us next week. Hopefully we'll have a little bit more news coming out. Combine week will be over by then. So hopefully we'll have a little bit more, be able to dive a little bit more into these philosophies from our head coach / our new coordinators who have come in. And I just love the information we're getting from our coaches, as a lot of Cowboy Nation has been saying. And hopefully, like sis said, we'll take some even more steps forward and hopefully see some news on Micah Parsons' contract, within, I don't want to say the next month. I want it to be the next few weeks. Hopefully that'll be the next step that we.
Hashtag 877 pay Micah now. We got to get Micah paid. Y'all really got to push that, because if we don't, Jerry and them will drag this shit out till, sorry my name, but they gonna drag this stuff out till July, August, September even.
Right. Literally. We literally saw our quarterback get paid.
Right. They did this to Zeke too. They will drag these contracts out. So we really got to keep the pressure to say pay now.
Right. And Stephen Jones, you told on yourself. Like my sis said earlier, you told on yourself. You said there are hardly any extenuating circumstances that you can't pay Parsons.
Exactly.
So get it done.
Yeah, get it done. Exactly.
Facts. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll catch you guys next week. See you.
Hey, y'all.